Good morning. I got a question for you just real quick. Do you think God has a sense of humor? Yeah, okay, good. We're going to need that to get through this. No, man, every once in a while, I think, honestly, God kind of pokes at me. And you'll get this here in a little bit, but as I was walking in to speak, you guys, I hope you know that this is never comfortable for me. Like the first 30 seconds they're terrifying. And I don't know if I'll ever get used to it, so I'm always just, right there on the brink of turning away and getting in my truck and leaving. And as I was walking up, a lady stopped me, sweet lady, and she said, you got a cowlick, right? You got it. It's back there. It's a cowlick. I was like, okay, fix it. Do whatever, okay? And then you can't fix this thing. And then I got right in here, and someone said, oh, you're sweating bad. Look, this is where I'm at. I'm not going to pay it any attention. Y'all don't pay any attention. I got over here, and I got right there in the corner, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay this stuff any attention. Jesus, help me. We're going to get through this. My cowlick and my sweaty situation. Okay? Brittany wasn't awake this morning to help me, What should I wear? Anyway. I have the privilege of sharing Sermon 6 in our series, Fear Less. Now, the goal of this series is very simple. We felt like Ronnie, and I think Ronnie's done an excellent job, and that is we want to understand fear better. Because we believe that the better we understand fear, the more likely we are to overcome fear. I've loved it. Have you guys loved it? It has just been good, man. And I want to do something this morning because Ronnie really hasn't been doing this because he's had a lot to talk about. I kind of want to do a recap with you guys first and foremost before we get started. That way, I want you guys to see the foundational things that Ronnie's been teaching. And so let's go back a little bit and let's look at Sermon 1. In Sermon 1, we learned that fear imprisons. That's what we learned about fear. We learned that fear imprisons. Fear imprisons us, keeping us from seizing the opportunities that are out there for us. That's what it does. And if you remember, Ronnie actually used the disciples following Jesus' crucifixion. The disciples had found a house. They had locked the door, remember, on the house, and they were refusing to go outside because they were terrified that the same fate that befell Jesus would befall them. And so they were terrified of that. And so they locked the door, and they weren't going out and taking the opportunity that they had in front of them to share Jesus. So Ronnie went through that sermon with you guys. Then next, we learned that fear immobilizes. Y'all remember this? Shake your heads yes if you remember it. Okay, good. Fear immobilizes us. Fear immobilizes us and keeps us from acting on our responsibilities. And Ronnie, he taught the story of David and Goliath. Focusing, though, on the soldiers that were there, the soldiers that had trained their whole lives to be soldiers. That's what they did. That's who they were. That's what they did for a living. Yet their fear kept them from stepping on the battlefield and facing Goliath because of the incredible man he was. My personal favorite was the next sermon, and that was we learned that fear robs. Fear robs us of God's intended blessings in our lives. Fear robs us of that. And if you remember, Ronnie shared the story of the Israelites right on the brink of entering the promised land. And instead of going into the promised land they had been promised over and over and over, they acted or reacted to 10 spies who went in the country that said, no good, not an option, they're too big, they're too powerful, we can't take the land from these people. And they decided not to go. And because they decided not to go, they missed out on the promised land. You remember all these sermons? I mean, they were good. In learning about fear, we've learned this, that courage overcomes fear. We discovered that faith in God is the key to courage. You remember that? Faith in God is the key to courage. And we discovered that focusing on God rather than the problem, rather than the situation, rather than the giants in our lives, focusing on God was the key to faith. Thank you. We realize that what we should be focusing on is God. And if you remember this, I just love it because Ronnie it's been intertwined in the entire series, and that is God is with you. He will help you, and He can do anything. That's good stuff, isn't it? That's good stuff. Last week we learned that fear panics. Ronnie described a situation where calamity was the word he used. I went back and listened to these sermons, and calamity was about to befall the Israelites. But he showed us that there is a path from panic to peace, and that path is very simple. That path is pray, listen, and believe. Pray to God, listen to what God says, and believe that He'll do what He says He's going to do. So, why in the world are we doing this series? And Ronnie says it over and over, and he said, we're trying to be realistic. We know that we're not going to walk out of here and just be fearless, but maybe we will fear less. But I want to take that a step further, and because it's what we talk about quite often, and it is that we feel like there's a lot of people in this church that have some giants they're facing. We feel like there's a lot of people in this church, and you're right on the edge of taking advantage of the opportunities that you have before you. We felt like there was a lot of people here who have locked the door on their life, and they're hiding behind the incredible things that God has for them. And so I want to be honest with you. I've had the opportunity. I've talked to a lot of people over the last several weeks, and this is what I know is happening. Some of you are starting to unlock the door, aren't you? I told you, I talked to a friend of mine the other day, and then it moved me. The series has literally, the messages of this series, the truths about God is changing the course of their life forever. That's why. We knew that there were people here, man. You had to find the courage to step out on the battlefield and face the giant in your life. You had to unlock and run towards those opportunities. We knew that so many of you were there. And so I want to talk to you this morning. Those of you who have decided to take that step. Those of you that have started on your journey, that you're facing that battle in your life. I want to talk to you because I think it's awesome that you're taking those steps. I think it's awesome that you're facing your fear. I think it's unbelievable, but I think there's something else that you need to know about fear as you continue on. And if you're there, and if you're not facing it right now, and you're right on the edge of, maybe you haven't made that decision to take that next step, I want to tell you need to listen as well, because I'm telling you there's something else about fear that you need to know. There's something else about fear that you have to know before it takes over. So are you ready? Can I teach some Bible? This morning I want to tell you a story about a man who took the leap, took the step, got out of his box and started on this journey. And I want to show you something that I believe transpired in his life and what happened to him. And so if you will, turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 14. And we're going to start right in verse 24, but let me give you a little bit of background. Matthew chapter 14. This is basically what happens. All right, Jesus is doing his Jesus thing. He's got his disciples. He is teaching people. He's healing people. He's doing him. And he's unbelievable. And he decides that he's kind of finishing up for the day or whatever in the evening. And he tells the disciples, he said, man, you guys, you go and get on your boat and sail out into the sea. I'm going to go up here on the mountain for a while. I'm going to rest. I'm going to pray. I'm going to talk to God. And I'll see you after a while. Okay? That's probably the southern version, but I'll see you later. Okay? And so the disciples go out, and this is where we pick up in verse 24. And the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. And this is what I think is happening. I think the disciples have went way out in the sea. That's where they're kind of camping out for the night. They've anchored up, and the boat is like this. The wind. You ever been on the beach at night? Raise your hand if you've ever been on the beach at night. Okay, you know how the wind kind of picks up on, man, and they just start whipping across there? That's kind of what's happening. So they're out there, and the wind's just dancing the boat around. And verse 25, Jesus does what Jesus does. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. Now, Jesus can't just like get in a boat and ride out there like a normal person, can he? So he looks out across and he goes, oh, I want to go be with my guys. And this is right before dawn. I just imagine that, right before dawn, right before the sun is crested, it's just starting to lighten up a little bit. And so Jesus just starts walking on the water out to them. Well, in verse 27 or 26, it says, when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said. That's what I would have said. I would have said, oh, snap! It's a ghost! And it says they cried out in, what's that word? Fear. Verse 27, but Jesus immediately said to them, take what? Man, a lot of words in here. It is I, don't be afraid. As if it was just who it was that was walking on water. That's what terrified them. Jesus said, it's me. Don't be afraid. Now, I love this, man. I love this because I identify a lot with Peter. He's probably the disciple I identify the most with. He's a little brash. He's a little bit of a hothead. He has a tendency to be really decisive and do really stupid things. And I identify with that. That's, And I just love Peter. But Peter right here, I love this, man. I'm telling you, he's a passionate guy. He looks out, he says, Lord, if it's you, then tell me to come out and join you. Tell me to come out there to you. And I want you to look what Jesus said. Come on, buddy. And then read this, and I want you to pay attention. Make sure you're watching. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. Did you see that? He's walking on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. And this is what Jesus said, and pay attention. You have little faith, he said. Why did you doubt? Did you see it? The story just taught us something about fear. I hope you caught it. If you didn't, let's go back. If you didn't, let's go back. All right, let me paint this picture for you a little differently rather than just reading it. Okay? All right, so Peter, Jesus is walking on the water. Disciples see him. They're scared of it immediately. Peter recognizes when Jesus said, oh, it's me. Peter recognizes, oh, that's Jesus. And Peter kind of in a flurry of passion and excitement says, if it's you, then tell me to come out there and walk with you. And Jesus said, come on, son. And Peter got out of the boat. Now, I don't know how you guys envision it. I don't know. And I'm sorry, camera people. All right? I don't know how you guys envision it. But I don't imagine Peter being like, oh, goodness gracious alive. Like, I don't imagine that. Like, just this whole conversation, like, you got to know this is Peter we're talking about. I imagine Peter was like, all right. Jesus said, come on. He's all right, I'm coming. And Peter grabs a hold of the boat, and he puts his foot down. He's like, oh, look at that. He slung his other leg out. He said, whoa, y'all see this? Watch this. Oh, man, this is good. Look, you see it? Woo! And it's just like that. Man, think about this. He's walking on water. Look, I'm not being irreverent, okay? And I know that people get that way sometimes. You'd be like, no, he stepped out. Ha, 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 ha. No, man. Dude was walking on water. He was hooting and hollering. He was looking back at his disciples, Look at them going, watch me, guys. And Jesus is going, come on, son, you're doing it. I mean, like, it was like that. I think the way I envision it's better, So. And man, Peter's walking along. I want you to think about what's happening to him. He's walking along, and he's walking towards Jesus, and it's incredible, and it's awesome and everything. And then all of a sudden, Peter goes, maybe a white cap happened or something like that. Or maybe the wind just picked up, a big gust or something. He goes, oh, yeah, it was. Oh, yeah. And maybe you look back and maybe the disciples are going, like this or something. Maybe they were giving him a face or whatever. But he looked and the waves are getting bigger and he realizes where he's at and he's like, oh my goodness. And then guess what happens? He starts to sink. Now, I don't know what it means, but it says as he starts to sink. And I always kind of imagine it like, not just a douche, like a Duncan Booth sinks, but I just imagine like he's kind of starting to go down in the water. He's starting to go down in the water, and he looks over at Jesus, and he's freaking out. He looks over at Jesus. He goes, Lord, save me! And Jesus goes, boom, 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 bam, and grabs his hand and pulls him right up out of the water. What did Jesus say to him? He said, you of little faith, why did you, what's the word? Doubt. I want you to think about this, because a lot happened in a very short amount of time. I mean, this was a big jump, okay? And I tell you, man, people have a tendency, they want to give Peter a bad rap right here, you know. Oh, yeah, you of little faith, why did you doubt? People want to give, you know, he was the only one out of that stinking boat. He was the only one that got out of the boat. I imagine he did it with spunk, excitement. But this dude went from the only one willing to get out of the boat and to start to walk towards Jesus on water that was wavy, in wind, to sinking, to doubting everything. How did that happen? He stepped out of the boat full of courage, excitement, anticipation, and for a minute it was awesome. He found himself doing something incredible. He found himself experiencing something that no one else would ever experience with Jesus, ever. Ever. He had seized the opportunity. He had overcome any reservations he had while he was sitting in that boat. But then, and this is the lesson about fear, fear returned. Fear returns. When Peter stepped out of that boat, I always like to use the phrase, it got real. It got real in a hurry. The waves weren't just slapping against the side of the boat anymore. They were now under his feet. He couldn't shield himself from the wind. He couldn't hunker down in the boat anymore. The wind was against him, and his clothes were flapping in the wind. Mine won't do that anymore, but it's another story. Peter felt exposed. He felt vulnerable. He was right in the middle of something dangerous, and he had no safety net. Fear returned. He became afraid, and he began to sink. So how did it happen? What's the chain of events that led Peter from, let's do this, to bad idea? What's the chain of events that led to this? How did this happen to him? How could something that was supposed to be incredible, awesome, inspirational turn into terror? Peter became distracted. Did you see it in our story? What did it say he saw? What did it say? The wind, the waves. Peter's focus shifted. He became distracted. He wasn't focused on Jesus anymore or the task at hand, walking with Jesus, towards Jesus. He began to notice the wind. He began to notice the waves. And look, I don't think it was like one thing. I think what happened is all of a sudden Peter's focus shifted to other things. Maybe it was scary. Maybe it was something new. Maybe it was a new challenge. Maybe there was a wave. I don't know. I don't know what exactly he saw, but I know this. He saw something. And what he wasn't seeing anymore was Jesus. He became distracted. Once he became distracted, Peter became disconnected. Once Peter became distracted, he became disconnected from Jesus. In other words, the power that was flowing from Jesus to Peter that was allowing him to walk on the water, all of a sudden, there was a block in it. All of a sudden, it wasn't making its way into Peter's life. Whatever you want to, however you want to say it, the power, maybe it was just Jesus' stare and his encouragement. I'm with you. I got you. Let's do this. Whatever it was, all of a sudden there was a disconnect between Peter and Jesus because of his distractions. And once that disconnect happened, Peter began to, what's the word? Doubt. He began to doubt. All of these what-ifs began to enter his mind. Oh, what if I fall? If I fall, will I sink then? What if Jesus just all of a sudden just turns around and walks away from me? I don't have a life jacket on. What if I mess this up and all the disciples start laughing at me? Be like, you fool, you can't walk on water. What if this happens? All of these what-ifs started entering into Peter's mind. And once he was distracted, he became disconnected. And once he was disconnected, he began to doubt. And once he began to doubt, fear took over. And by the end of it, fear had reared its ugly head. And he literally began to drown in his own fear. Can I be real with you? You guys like it when I do that, right? Those of you that are here this morning, man, you've unlocked that door on something. Man, I'm telling you, maybe you've been facing it for years and you unlocked the door and you said, I'm going out. I want to do this. I want to follow God. Maybe some of you, man, you've been facing, you've had that giant just sitting there taunting you, this giant, whatever it is. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's an altercation of some kind, or maybe it's just an incredible challenge in your life, but you've had this giant and you've picked up your sword and you're walking out on the battlefield, or your sling, I guess, would be more appropriate, and you're walking on the battlefield and you're going to face this giant now. Those of you that have made that decision, I need to warn you this morning about something, and please don't just get discouraged right off the bat here. But fear's going to return. I'm telling you, it's going to come back. It's going to try to. If we're not careful, fear's going to try to return, and here's how it's going to happen. First, it's going to try to distract you. It's going to try to get you thinking about something else. It's going to say, look over here. Look how bad this is. Look how scary this is. Oh, look at this. Look at this thing coming up. Look at this problem on the horizon. That's what it's going to do. Distract you. Then once you become distracted, all your focus, all your attention, all your energy, all of that stuff is going to become about the distraction, rather than about Jesus. And you're going to become disconnected from Jesus. And all of that stuff we've been talking about, that He's with you, He's going to help you, all of the power He's planning on doing, the strength He's planning on giving you, the peace He's planning on giving you, the encouragement He's planning on giving you, and the word and the guidance He's going to put into your life, I want to tell you, all of a sudden you're going to become disconnected from it. You're not going to be paying it any attention. Once that happens, you're going to start to doubt. You're going to begin to doubt. You're going to begin to doubt everything that right now you know is true. And once that happens, fear is going to try to take over. And instead of facing that giant, guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be going and you're going to be getting back in the tent. Are you hearing me right now? You're going to be going and getting back in the tent. Instead of unlocking that door, you're going to run back to that house with everything that you have and try to get inside and lock the door, get in the bed, pull the sheets over your head. That's what's going to happen. You're going to miss out on an incredible blessing. All because we got distracted. Before you know it, if you're not careful, you will feel exposed. You will feel vulnerable. You will feel stuck out on your own. You will doubt that God is with you. You will doubt that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You will say, man, I shouldn't be here. This is too dangerous. In spite of the courage, the faith, the knowledge, the anticipation, and the excitement that you had when you began this journey, maybe in the last few weeks, fear will return, Fear will return. And when it does so with a vengeance. So, what do you do, Tim? I appreciate this encouraging, loving word to us. What do we do? How do we prepare? I believe it's two things. Number one, I believe there's a preventative measure. Okay? Now, Ronnie has had, this application has been so pretty much the same through this entire series, and that is this. Focus on God. How do you do that? You do so in His Word. Remember that from this series? What's the path from panic to peace? Prayer. Listen. Believe. I'm telling you, there's a preventative measure for preventing fear from coming back into your life, and you know what it is? It's devoting yourself to those things. Now, I know that bores you guys to death. But that's the truth. The more you devote yourself to His Word and your focus, you keep your focus on God, and the more you devote yourself to prayer, preventative prayer, prayer that God will keep, He will hold you, He will keep your strength, He will keep your focus on Him. All those things, I'm telling you, that is a preventative way. And that's why Ronnie keeps teaching that over and over and over, is because we know that if you're doing those things, guess what happens when fear tries to return into your life? You go, no, I can't be distracted. Maybe something scares you for a day, but the next day you're in the Word. Guess what? God will help you. I'm with you. What if a new problem jumps up on the horizon, man, and just for a few hours there, you're just freaking out. You're like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do about this. But that evening when you sit down, you go, it's time to pray as a family. And you pray and you think about it. God's drawing you back to Himself. That's how it's preventative. That's how it works. There's a second thing, though. And I think this is reactive. It's reactive. What did Peter do? When he began to sink, what did he do? Lord, save me! I imagine it more high-pitched than that. Lord, save me! I don't know. That's what I would be like. But I want to tell you something. That was a practice learned response. He knew that the only way he was going to get out of the mess he was in, the way he was sinking, was if he grabbed a hold of Jesus. And I'm going to tell you, instantly, that's where his mind went. I need Jesus. This is the problem. I need Jesus. I'm in trouble. I need Jesus. And I'm going to tell you something. I know, man, maybe it's not. I'm telling you, that is something that you can learn to do when life begins to go south, when you're out there and you're exposed and you're vulnerable and things are starting to get bad. It is a learned thing to go, Jesus, I need you. Some of you mature Christians in here, is that true? Is that true? Please shake your heads, yes. You're mature if you know it. If you got gray hair, come on. Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to just stare at you while I said that. I'm telling you, it's a learned thing, man. You can build that into your life. You can build it into your life that the second something's negative or something doesn't feel right, you go, man, I might need to talk to Jesus. I might need to check with Him. I'm telling you, I've experienced that in my life. I want to tell you a quick story. 10 years ago, this is crazy. This has happened to me a lot lately. But 10 years ago, like probably this week, I was about to graduate college. I graduated on what was the day? 17th or 6th? No, it's our wedding day. This next. It's like the 7th. The 7th, yeah. The 7th or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The week I was graduating from college, I got a phone call from a professor. Now, I was helping part-time here with the students and stuff, and I knew that God was calling me into ministry, but I didn't really know what that meant, and I didn't know, to what level He wanted me to do that, but I had just finished Ag Economics at Clemson, and I got this phone call from one of my professors, and believe it or not, I had excelled in something at Clemson, and it was a good thing, and this professor called me, and he said, look, man, have you thought about grad school? Well, I was like, brother, all the school that's happened thus far, I have no idea how that happened. That was God and Brittany McCall ordained. You know what I mean? You'll get that joke later if you don't get that now. But I don't even know. But he was like, man, we'd love for you to come and maybe just you got to take a GRE, you got to do this, you need to get in grad school. And I was like, I didn't have any. But he said the magic words, but we'll pay you. we'll pay for your schooling, we'll pay you a little bit of money, you teach this, teach like a lab. And I was like, okay. And so we prayed about it, Brittany and I we talked about it, prayed about it, and felt like it was the right move. And, and it wasn't like God was like, go to grad school, but it was just like, it was an opportunity, and I'm kind of an opportunity guy. So I was like, oh, shoot, I'll take it. So start grad school, doing my thing, get a little office, This is like, okay, this is cool. They give you an office at school. That's nice. And started into my first few classes. And I realized after this first couple classes that this was going to be different than normal school. These people take it seriously. Who knew? And so, like the first couple classes, I'm kind of feeling, I'm like, okay, I got this. I'll be fine. You'll be fine. And so I walked into this one class, and this class was called International Finance. Now, basically, this is how grad school works. This was my coursework. This is what I had to do, and I had to make a B in every class or higher for it to count. So that's how it works. And so I walk into this class, and I'm sitting there, and I begin to notice a lot of things. First off, I noticed that this particular classroom has incredible dry erase boards. Like they are phenomenal. They are the size of that wall right there, up to the light bar up there. They are they all move, slide up and over and everything. And I'm like, how neat is that? Such a cool whiteboard. And I'm like, this is incredible. And then I started looking around the classroom, and I don't want to. And please understand, this is just the truth. I look around the classroom, and I'm like, I'm like the third American in this room. And I just was. Everyone else was Asian and Indian, and they were exchange students and stuff. I'm like, interesting. Well, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to get some culture while I'm here. And so I'm sitting there, and the professor walks in. Normal-looking guy, probably, whatever. He walks in, he stands in front of the class. And I apologize if you're Russian, or if you just don't like bad Russian accents, but it just makes the story better. And he walks up in front of the class, and he goes, my name is and today, this is International Finance. If you're not in the right class, please leave. Today we're going to, and I wrote it down so I can remember. I'm sorry. Today we're going to teach the Haxor-Orlin theorem. So if you will, watch the board. And he turns around, and he gets his little dry erase marker. And dude starts writing. And it's a formula, okay? It's numbers, letters, abbreviations, negative signs, and all kinds of these other all kinds of stuff. And he's dividing, multiplying, he's doing math things I didn't even know they existed. And I'm sitting there watching him, and I'm like this. What and like everyone else in the class, as soon as he started, they're like they're like that. You know what I mean? I'm like little mice. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like looking, I'm like, paper. Do I got paper? I'm like this kid in class. I'm like, oh, snap. All right. He's like, the dude starts doing geometry like in the middle of the formula. I'm like, oh, gosh, triangle. And I have no idea what's happening. And the whole time, I'm not kidding, okay? I am not kidding. This is not exaggeration because y'all know I have a tendency to do that. I'm telling you, dude never turns around. He talks to the board in a Russian accent. So all I'm getting is the reverb echo off of his board that I don't even understand what he's saying. Anyway, everybody, finally, man, this guy over here to my right, and he raises his hand. I'm like, thank God, somebody slow this man down. And I'm like, he's going to be like, brother, I'm not sure that we're understanding what you're doing, or hey, this is, are we sure this is how the class is going to go the whole time? Or something just to slow this guy down because I'm freaking out. And I'm watching, and the guy goes, sir, there's supposed to be a negative on that 12th exponent. You correcting a teacher, man? You're correcting the teacher? Like, I don't know what's happening. Guys, I'm not kidding. Like, I walked out of this class, like tears down my face, sweating, worse than I am right now. And I walk out and I'm like, this is not good. This is not good. I'm not supposed to be here. And I walk in, and I talked to Britt about it, and I'm freaking out. And I don't know, man. There was a solid period of time there, a few days, where I'm just like, I'm going to have to quit grad school. Like, going to have to quit it. Like, there's the Wahala graduate, I don't know what they're doing. And there was a period of time there, but finally I was like, I started praying about it. My mind went to God. I was like, God, you want to help me? And I started praying about it, and I said, all right, God, what do you want me to do? And I kept feeling pressed upon me to talk to this teacher. And you do it some, but I didn't do it a lot. It wasn't something I like to do. And I'm like, I'm going to go talk to him. So I went to his office, and I was waiting outside of his office, and he walked up, and I said, hey, and that was a good joke here. And I walked up to him, and he said, what do you need or whatever? And I said, man, I'm going to fail your class. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, I'm going to fail your class. Like, I've been in there for 2 days. I don't know what you're doing. He's like, what do you not understand? I'm like, the stuff on the board. And he's like, okay. And I said, man, what am I going to do? Do I just drop out? Is that what I do? He goes, 2 grades. Test, paper. He said, can you write good paper? I said, I probably write a good paper. Yeah, I like writing. He goes, you write good paper, you get B in class. I'm like, what? He said, write good paper, you get B in class. I said, all right, just make sure the language barrier and everything. I write a good paper. Don't matter what I make on the test, you're going to give me a B in the class. Yes. I'm like, okay. The test came along, I took the test, made a 32 on the test. I'll never forget it. 32, Ray. I'm pretty sure there was a curve associated with that. But I wrote a paper, man. I trusted God. I wrote a paper. I said, God, He got to help me with this paper, man. I probably wrote the best paper I ever wrote, man, in my whole life. It's 20-something pages. I remember it. It was a labor of love there. Wrote this paper, handed it back to me. He said, good paper. I got to be in the class. Never got a formula right the whole time. The only thing I knew to do in that situation was to reach out and say, Jesus, save me. Help me. And He did. And over and over and over in my life, that is what He has done for me. I gave my testimony at the end of last year, and I told you guys, and as a part of that testimony, that I think I kind of went through the same thing that everybody does, just a good, healthy fear of having children. And, I don't know what kind of dad I'd make, and I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of thing, and blah, 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 standard stuff. But as things have a tendency to do, I watch my friends, have their babies and love them, and, my friends be great dads, great moms. I was like, well, we can do this. I can do this. And so I got courage and got peace about it with God, and man, we went on, And so Brittany and I, we had, got pregnant, and there's so much excitement, associated with that. You're just like, yes, we're pregnant, and there's so much to do, you're so busy and everything. And her life is just, it's just crazy at that moment. And I'll never forget that we went to the doctor, and we're doing like the ultrasound, and the lady looked, and she said, it's going to be a girl. Fear returned. And I'm serious. Like, full-blown panic mode, panic attack. I know nothing about girls. Like from the smallest thing to like how you change your diapers to like grand things, big things. I'm going, I don't know what to do. And I'm telling you, for weeks after that, I was scared to death. But at some point in that, I said, God, you're going to have to help me. You're going to have to help me. Because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be a daddy to a little girl, so you're going to have to help me. And I believe that He has. I'm not perfect. I don't get it all figured out or nothing like that, but I'm just telling you that consistently when I look to God, He helps me and He saves me a lot from Andy. And what kind of sense of humor does He have but to give me a second one? I wouldn't trade it for anything now. I wouldn't trade it. The experience of being a dad of those girls, the challenge that it's been, how He's helped me get through that fear. And I'm telling you, whatever situation you're in right now, whatever challenge it is you're facing, however it is, the giants or whatever, man, the opportunities that you're trying to take advantage of, I'm telling you, don't lose heart, man. But I'm telling you, build that preventative measure in your life, the Word and prayer. And don't forget that when stuff starts to go south, to go, Jesus, help me. And you'll be fine. You'll all be fine. Good enough? I didn't get distracted by the cowlick sweat remark. Let me pray for you. Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the great God you are, a God that is ever present, ever loving, and just good to us. God, help us to remember you in everything that we do, and help us to do everything that we do to your glory. But God, most of all, help us to not get distracted. For all those who are facing their giants right now, walking headlong into that opportunity, taking that journey, facing their fears, God, I just pray this. I pray that you keep them from becoming distracted, that you keep them connected to you, that you never let them doubt all that you are and how much you care for them. God, and help them see incredible things. Help them do amazing things. Help them experience things with you that no one else has ever experienced. Father, and we'll give you glory. Thank you for this church. Thank you for just every family that's here and just how special they are to us. It's in Jesus' name, and everyone says, amen.